Hey everyone, welcome to my very special Tokyo Crystal Mew plot explanation video. Today I will be telling all of you the plot of the series and what I intended on writing out for all of the episodes. There will still be some unanswered questions like who some of the other Mews were that you never got to meet in the first few episodes, and why some characters existed at all, but if you have any questions regarding those, I will have a frequently asked questions video coming in the near future, so make sure that you leave some comments below if you have any questions that you would like answered. Now then, let's begin. Tokyo Crystal Mew. What is Tokyo Crystal Mew? It's a fan project that was based off of and was supposed to be a continuation of the anime and manga series Tokyo Mew Mew, created by Reika Yoshida and Mia Ikumi. Tokyo Crystal Mew takes place in the future from the original series, where all the original Mews had grown up and had children. I will start by admitting that the relationships I chose were strange, as well as most of the names. They didn't make much sense. I don't have proper explanations for most of them, but please bear with me. So let's start with the characters that we know and love from the original Tokyo Mew Mew series and introduce who their children are, shall we? So let's start with the main character, Ichigo Momomiya. So as we are familiar with in the original anime series, she got into a relationship with Masaya Oyama. So my series follows that, and they ended up staying together and having a child whom they named Toya Oyama. Minto Aizawa, one of the other Mews, had a child with Ryo Shirogane, whom they named Mina Shirogane. That pairing doesn't really make sense, but when I was 10 years old, for some reason, it just seemed to work. Letasu Midorikawa, or Lettuce, had a child with someone whom I don't actually remember naming. Oops. Their child, however, was named Lanaka, and just to keep things simple, we'll just say that her last name is also Midorikawa. Builing Huang, or Pudding, had a child with Taruto, the alien from the original Tokyo Mew Mew series. They always had a lot of chemistry. It was probably just because they were both kids and they were both kind of cute together. So they had a child together, and that child name was Pulo Pulo Huang. However, in my series, because I didn't like how Pulo Pulo sounded, I wanted her name to be pronounced Pulapulo. So I just always stuck with that, despite the way it's spelled. So one of the other Mews, Zakuro Fujiwara, had a child with someone also unnamed. I had decided that it was probably a colleague of hers within the model industry. Their child was named Shortaze, and again, we'll just say Fujiwara for the last name for convenience. Betty Shirayuki, or Berry, had a child with her sweetheart, Tasuku Meguro, in Tokyo Mew Mew a la mode. Their child was named Todona Meguro. And finally, the last Mew, who is a character from the Tokyo Mew Mew PlayStation game, Ringo Akai, for some reason had a child with Kishu from the Aliens. I honestly don't really know why. I think they maybe had like one interaction that I knew of as a child, and I was like, oh, well then they're getting together. I really don't understand that one. But regardless, their child was named Kisha Akai, which was just Kishu, but you replace the U with an A, and then I thought that Kisha sounded weird, so I said that the H was silent and it was Kisa, which is weird because that's my name. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's just how it is. Anyway, there were also some other Mews who didn't seem to have any parents who came from the original Mews. And those people were Crystal, Mystica, and Cookie. We will learn more about them later, and they will also have their own videos to talk all about them if you want to know more outside of what was explained in this video. So now that you know the Mews and who their corresponding parents were, let's hop right in. So let's start from the top. Toya and Mina, best friends, were going about their regular daily life when suddenly a monster appeared and attacked them. A shadowy figure, who we get to know as Yuko Shirogane, cousin of Ryo Shirogane, appears and tells the girls how to transform into Mews. After they do so, they defeat the monster and demand answers. Yuko then explains to them that just like their parents, they were also Mews and needed their help in defeating the new threat that their world faced. There were new aliens who came to Earth wanting to take it over for their own species, and they weren't interested in doing it peacefully. After the girls agreed to do so and took up a job at the Crystal Cafe, their base of operations, Toya and Mina fight a monster and two aliens, Zatharan and Stronats. They defeat the monster and watch their enemies flee, and after doing so, discover a girl, Cookie Kogami, whom the aliens were trying to capture, unbeknownst to Toya and Mina. Cookie explains about having no memory about what happened, so Toya and Mina walk her home. Later that night, however, Cookie is seen back outside the cafe looking for something she dropped, panicking. It is then revealed that she was a Mew as well, having dropped her pendant after being attacked. The following week at Toya and Mina's high school, they discover that Cookie attends their school too, despite her young age. She becomes a victim of bullying due to a new girl at school, and because of the stress of the bully, Cookie transforms to scare the girl off. When Mina witnessed Cookie transformed and consulted with Toya about it, they agree to find her, since Cookie might have been scared after discovering her new powers. In fear, Cookie attempts to knock out Mina with a school book, not yet trusting of the best friends. But once they had a chance to connect with the younger girl and understand her, Cookie felt much more at ease. All of that happened just in time for another alien attack, this time at their school. The Mews all headed outside and defeated the monster after the alien Zatharan made it clear he was after Cookie. The alien then disappears right before the Mews notice that their battle attracted attention from the media and their classmates. Toya announces that they are Tokyo Crystal Mew and poses with the group, making an impression on the media. The following day, with the news out, Toya and Mina are reprimanded by their parents for not letting them know about them being Mews. The parents are then introduced to the Crystal Cafe staff, including a woman named Mystica, who is the bakery chef of the cafe. That same day, former Mew Berry arrived at the cafe with her daughter Tadona. Immediately, Mina and Tadona don't get along due to an age difference. Mina doubts the younger girl would be as helpful as Cookie and voices that to the group, which causes the reaction from Mystica. Mystica turned out to be Cookie's mother. Since Mystica wasn't aware of her daughter being a Mew, she left to the back room to speak with her daughter, and after scolding her for keeping the secret, she tries to believe in her and introduces her properly to everyone as the newest member of their team. Later that night, Cookie was alone in her room and starts talking to someone, seeking comfort and protection. There was no one in the room, but she could hear a voice. It was comforting and familiar. It was obvious she'd spoken with this person often, whoever they were. Soon after, two more Mews join the cafe, Lanaka and Shortes, and it isn't long before the aliens attack again. Stronats and a younger alien by the name of Talantis were next to attack. Lanaka and Shortes worked together to defeat the aliens despite being new Mews. Days later, their newest member, Kisa, was kidnapped by the aliens on her way to the cafe, and Mina and Tadona are forced to work together to save her. As time goes on, Cookie appears hurt whenever she hears news of something else happening with the aliens, knowing that she was still a target. She ultimately felt responsible for the attacks. Cookie takes a break from everything and hangs out with her crush, Daisuke. Unfortunately, they also get attacked by an alien, but Cookie was too scared to transform in front of her crush, in fear of him hating her, so she hides behind him, and the other Mews have to come help defeat the monster instead. With only one of the original Mews left to join, you get to meet a new character, a woman named Crystal, who seemed to be close friends with Mystica. Crystal explains she discovered new information about the aliens and that it was crucial not to get too cocky, despite how successful their fights had been going. She warns that things are about to get much more difficult. Their final member, Palapalo, joins the Mews just as an alien attack occurs. The alien Talantis is seen again, but falls for Palapalo and refuses to fight. The aliens are forced to retreat because of it. Next, you experience some flashbacks showing Crystal and Mystica, but looking a fair bit different than how we were used to seeing them. They appear to be in a very torn up place with dark skies and rubble surrounding them. They are hiding from something. Crystal gets critically injured and the two discuss their chances of survival and everything getting back to normal. You can feel the hopelessness in the air. Back to the cafe, Crystal explained she was watching the girls' battles with the aliens and expressed great concern. They just weren't strong enough. She advises Ryo and Yuko to finish building their prototype reality chamber so that the girls can practice and train more before it was too late. Back at the aliens' dimension, Talantis disobeys and shouts back at their leader. He is threatened to be killed. In a desperate attempt to get away, he flees to Bulapalo's house, and she takes him in and hides him from her parents. At this point, Cookie's inner voice starts to place doubt in her, and when she visits her crush Daisuke, her anxiety starts turning everything into a fear, and she ends up feeling like Daisuke was suspicious of her being attacked by the aliens. She ends up running away from him and slowly starts isolating herself from everyone. This is when you get to experience another flashback that reveals Crystal and Mystica discussing their options while being surrounded by rubble. The hopelessness is thick in the air. Crystal tells Mystica to use their combined powers to send Mystica back in time and warn the others. Crystal would try and use the rest of her power to join her. The story focuses back on Cookie, who is going about her daily life full of fear and paranoia. Her school bully continues pestering her, sending Cookie into a spiral of negative thoughts. She then flees school and ends up having a panic attack in an alleyway alone. Cookie doesn't return home that night, and everyone worries. Unbeknownst to the Muse, the inner voice that Cookie spoke to frequently about her worries took over her body and transformed it. Using their new body, they meet up with the alien, revealing themselves as their master, and continues planning the next attack. Soon after, the aliens attack the Muse, and Talantis reveals himself to the other aliens, telling them he took the Muse side, while trying to convince the other aliens to join him as well. The aliens refuse, and unfortunately, the Muse are forced to retreat, not strong enough to fight them anymore. Without much time to rest, the alien's master approaches the cafe soon after and blows it up, the Muse barely escaping in time. The master reveals to the Muse that she was there because of Mystica. She tells the Muse that Crystal and Mystica were from another timeline. They attempted to go back in time to prevent the aliens from taking over. However, the master from Crystal and Mystica's previous timeline discovered their plan and planted a clone inside Mystica. It was supposed to take over Mystica's body after she went back in time, but because Mystica got pregnant and had a child, it was passed on to Cookie, which was actually better for the Master. It gave the alien's Master 10 years to properly develop and learn to use Cookie as their host, increasing their power tenfold. The Muse were startled and felt betrayed by the new knowledge, feeling like they didn't know if they could trust Crystal and Mystica anymore. The two time travelers begged the Muse to continue training in Yuko's secret hideout. All the Muse tried their best to keep training and not lose hope, despite the circumstances. Once more, the Muse engage in combat with the aliens. The aliens Zetherin and Stronauts tell the Muse that their timeline was doomed. Their master had planted clones all over the world of herself, and soon they would all take over their hosts, and the world would be theirs. The Muse successfully defeat the aliens, killing Stronauts in the midst of it, and Zetherin then retreats. With the help of the alien Talantis and their robot mascot R2012, the Muse were able to track down the alien master's location and plan to come to them. Thanks to Talantis, they learned if they could kill the master, that all their clones would die too, because they were tied to one consciousness. The Muse all get to the master's base and kill the alien Zetherin. Crystal and Mystica, whom have the most power, launch an attack and destroy the master as well. Once done, all the Muse put their power together and successfully transform Cookie's bodies back to normal. However, she won't wake up and had entered a coma. Cookie is then in a coma for months. But one day, while Daisuke was visiting, she wakes up. Cookie confesses her love to him, and he says he feels the same. So yeah, that's Tokyo Crystal Mew. I hope that it made sense. I do have an FAQ video coming up soon, so it should be able to answer any questions that you do have. And then I also have 2 more videos coming out that specifically talk about Cookie and her struggle. And then we also have another video about Crystal Mystica, since I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions about that whole thing. After all, time traveling being in an anime or a fanime at that is a little bizarre. So I'd like to be able to talk about it as much as possible. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today and listening to my story, and I hope that it met your expectations or exceeded them, or if it didn't, it was at least amusing to figure out what this crazy, weird 15-year-old story was all about to begin with. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye!